The first thing Omni-Man noticed was the silence. The kind that comes after the sound barrier has been broken and never comes back. The battlefield drifted below him, 1,000 war suns burning through the black, their fire cutting through the corpse of the Crithian sector. Space rippled like heat, the stars blurring into red veins. He hovered above it all, motionless. The air, or what passed for it, was full of electromagnetic screams, the last transmissions of a dying fleet. Every frequency sang his name. They're learning, he thought. They're afraid. The Crithian command had thrown everything at him. Singularity cannons, gravity lances, fleets made of folded matter. He had torn through them like breath through fog. Now, only the Solar Core Armada remained, the heart of their empire. He could see their flagship now, a living starcraft, its skin molten and translucent, pulsing with reactor veins. It looked almost alive. Maybe it was. He could sense its fear in the static. His body hummed with a low vibration, not from exhaustion, but from power. His cells resonated like instruments, each one tuned to destruction. His vision flickered between light spectrums, ultraviolet, thermal, X-ray. The universe was a skeleton before him. A voice broke the silence, sharp, digital, desperate, unidentified life form. This is Admiral Sereth of the Crithian Solar Fleet. You have violated the dominion of 10 galaxies. Withdraw, or face total annihilation. Omni-Man floated closer. The transmission translated directly into his bloodstream. Their language burned behind his eyes. Annihilation, he said softly, his voice deep enough to shake the metal of their hull. You think you own that word? He blinked. He was gone. When he reappeared, he was inside the flagship. The walls were breathing. Metal organs pulsed with reactor light. Crithian soldiers, pale, insectal beings wrapped in exosuits, turned as one. Their rifles charged with miniature suns. Fire, someone screamed. The air filled with light. 1 billion degrees of radiation poured over him. The floor turned to glass. The blast shattered a kilometer of corridor, but Omni-Man didn't move. The light bent around him, like it had been waiting for him all along. He reached out. When his hand touched the nearest soldier, the exosuit folded into him, skin, armor, and weapon dissolving into raw energy that climbed up his arm like liquid fire. He felt it merge with his muscle, his bone. His heartbeat deepened. Another soldier charged. Omni-Man caught him by the throat, lifted him effortlessly. The alien kicked, screaming something in a language that vibrated rather than spoke. Omni-Man's eyes flared, and he saw it. Inside the soldier's mind, an entire civilization, billions of lives interconnected through neural resonance, their memories woven like a living tapestry. They called themselves the Crithians because they were always crying, a species that evolved to mourn before they died. He felt their grief flow into him, and for a brief moment, he pitied them. Then he crushed the soldier's throat. The ship screamed, literally screamed. The walls convulsed, reactors bursting like arteries. Light poured through every seam, searing reality. The Crithian fleet panicked. Ships tried to warp out of orbit, but Omni-Man's gravitational field had already fused space around them. Admiral Sereth, he said, his voice transmitted through every dying console. I warned you. You cannot destroy me. You can only feed me. Monster, the Admiral spat. You're not a man. You're entropy made flesh. Omni-Man smiled faintly. I am the reason your gods stay dead. Then he opened his hands. Outside, the entire fleet detonated. Black hole cores ruptured, each one collapsing inward, then rebounding, folding 1,000 suns into a sphere of dense, shrieking light. It wasn't metal anymore. It was alive. The sphere pulsed once, twice, then began whispering. Omni-Man floated toward it. In the blinding glow, he saw his reflection multiplied 1 billion times, each version smiling differently, each whispering the same word, over and over. More. The sound crawled under his skin. It wasn't hunger. It was instinct, the ancient gravity of evolution. Power feeding on surrender. The reflections pressed closer, their faces merging, their eyes bleeding light. Is this what I am? He muttered. A wound that eats the world. He reached for the sphere. It reached back. The moment they touched, he saw everything. 10 galaxies. 10 empires of soldiers. 10,000 years of war. All of it built to hold back something like him. And all of it failing. He saw the next galaxy already preparing. The Orion vanguard arming suns into weapons. He saw the seraphim blades praying to their harvested angels. He saw time folding to escape his arrival. He could feel their fear across dimensions. And it felt good. The sphere pulsed again, louder now. His reflection split apart, fragmenting into millions of voices inside his head. Voices of the dead, the conquered, the unborn. They screamed, begged, prayed, cursed. He tried to silence them, but every sound became part of his pulse. Every memory became a new cell. His veins glowed. His breath distorted gravity. He screamed, and the sound tore through light years. When silence returned, the Crithian sector was gone. Nothing remained but a sphere of liquid metal floating where 10 suns had once burned. He watched it spin. Every rotation changed its surface. Faces appeared and vanished. Cities formed and dissolved. Eyes opened and shut. The whole thing was breathing. He should have felt victorious. But something in him shifted, a tremor behind his thoughts. For the first time, he felt watched. Not by survivors. Not by gods. By the universe itself. It was subtle. The starlight bending toward him. The void thickening as if listening. He felt the weight of its gaze. Curious. Hungry. He whispered, "You see me now, don't you?" The stars flickered, once, twice, as if nodding. And far beyond the horizon of light, in a place where time hadn't yet formed, something whispered back. "We always have." The words echoed inside his skull, twisting the chorus of voices into a single note that didn't end. He floated there for hours, or centuries, listening to the sound of his own infection spreading through space. The conquest had begun, and Omni-Man realized the war was no longer against the 10 galaxies. It was against creation itself. The metal spheres still turned behind him, glowing like a heartbeat that would never stop. Omni-Man left it there, adrift, a memorial to everything he had erased. As he crossed the void, the light of 10 million dead stars bent toward him, their radiation folding into his trail. It felt like the universe was taking his fingerprints. He didn't fly. He fell forward through folded gravity, each breath dragging space-time behind him. The Orion vanguard waited on the other side of the rift, a civilization forged inside neutron storms. Their world spun around caged suns, their soldiers born in furnaces. He could already taste their defenses in the vacuum. Magnetic lattices, reactor dust, the static scent of charged plasma. It tasted like iron and fear. Unidentified mass detected. A distant voice snapped over wideband channels. "Prepare solar armor, level 3. Form Eclipse formation." He could hear them even without the transmission. Their collective pulse hammered through subspace, a rhythm of discipline and defiance. For the first time in eons, something about that rhythm felt familiar. He descended. The first Orion sentinels opened fire. Beams of compressed starlight lanced upward, each one powerful enough to burn moons to vapor. They struck him square in the chest. The heat peeled reality open, painting the dark in molten white. He pushed through it. Every particle that touched him dissolved into red dust, feeding the hum beneath his skin. He landed on the outer shell of an Orion forge planet, an endless field of molten glass and towers of rotating plasma. The surface trembled under his weight, the gravity distorted by his arrival. A dozen armored figures appeared, each encased in orbiting fragments of sun core, their eyes bright as furnaces. One stepped forward. "You are the anomaly," the soldier said. Its voice was filtered through radio static, distorted by the heat. "You killed the Crithians." "I had a habit," Omni-Man answered. His tone was quiet, almost conversational. "They believed strength was something you could earn. I'm teaching otherwise. Then you're a lesson we will unlearn." The soldiers attacked together. The ground ruptured. Plasma storms erupted. For a heartbeat, he vanished inside the blaze. He felt every strike. not as pain, but as texture. Heat pressed against his nerves, folding into energy. The flames whispered equations of creation, and he understood them by instinct. He stepped through the inferno, leaving trails of crystallized air behind him. He reached the nearest soldier, caught its burning arm, and twisted. The armor shrieked as if alive. Inside, a body of liquid light writhed, screaming in a voice that wasn't sound but vibration. He absorbed it. The others hesitated. "Do you feel that?" he asked them. "Your sons hum to me. They want out." The sky rippled. The Vanguard's command fleet emerged from hyperspace. Thousands of orbital citadels linked by magnetic bridges, each one powered by a star. Their admiral spoke, voice calm, practiced, ancient. "This is Admiral Kaltor of the Oran Vanguard. We have watched your path through the Dominion. We will not plead, we will not run. We are the light that refuses extinction." Omni-Man almost smiled, then burned. He leapt into orbit. Space shattered like glass. He tore through the first citadel. Its star core flared and collapsed, dragging 1,000 ships into a spiral of blue fire. Kaltor's voice cracked through the static. "Initiate solar convergence." Suddenly, the suns themselves began to move. 10 of them, tethered by gravitational nets, merged into one colossal sphere. It pulsed brighter, hotter, its corona stretching across light years. They had turned their entire system into a single weapon. Omni-Man could feel its mass tugging at his bones, trying to crush him into quarks. The light blinded even his enhanced vision. His skin began to vibrate apart. For the first time in ages, he felt resistance. He laughed a raw, terrible sound. "Yes, show me." The super sun roared. Its radiation should have erased him, but instead it sank into him like breath. His body shuddered, every atom rewriting itself to contain the flood. The Oran watched in horror as the weapon meant to destroy him became his nourishment. Inside his mind, voices began again, the Crithian ghosts, the echoes of a billion dead. "Feed, feed, feed." He clutched his head. Silence. They didn't listen. Their words twisted into Kaltor's voice, whispering from within his skull. "You think victory is survival, but survival is the cage." He saw flashes that weren't his. Oran children playing in reactor light, soldiers training in gravity storms, a civilization that believed discipline could tame chaos. He saw their pride, their fear, their desperate beauty. He almost envied them. Then the envy curdled into hunger. He dived straight into the super sun. For an instant, there was only white. Every scream in the galaxy stretched into a single, endless note. The Oran's linked consciousness reached out to him, trying to overwhelm him with unity, millions of minds flooding his. He felt them invade his thoughts, their memories clawing for control. He let them in. For a heartbeat, he was them. Countless soldiers standing on radiant worlds, looking up at the sky in terror. Then he reversed the flow. Every mind that touched his became trapped, folded inward, imprisoned within his neurons. He felt their awareness flicker and fade, until the sun itself dimmed. When the light cleared, nothing remained but fragments of cooling plasma and a single figure floating in silence. Omni-Man opened his eyes. They glowed like twin stars dying. Around him drifted debris, ships, armor, thought itself crystallized into dust. Inside his skull, the absorbed minds whispered endlessly, overlapping until language dissolved. He whispered back to them, a promise or a curse, he wasn't sure. "You are mine. You are me." The void answered with a deep, rhythmic vibration. It wasn't sound, it was space trembling. He realized the galaxies beyond had felt it too. His existence was spreading, rippling through dimensions, rewriting cosmic background noise. He looked down at his hands. They shimmered, phasing between flesh and starlight. Every cell contained a different horizon. The hunger had changed shape. It was no longer about destruction. It was evolution. But beneath the triumph was a pulse of unease. The voices in his head had started speaking in patterns he couldn't decipher. They weren't begging anymore. They were building something. Organizing. Waiting. He turned toward the next frontier, the Seraphim Blades. He could already sense their celestial engines warming, the scent of sanctified plasma reaching across the void. He whispered into the dark. You saw them fall. You'll fall faster. The stars flickered again, one long blink. Somewhere, far beyond what even he could see, the universe whispered back through static and gravity, a tone older than creation itself. Not faster, deeper. For the first time, Omni-Man felt the faint chill of doubt crawl across his immortal skin. And the war moved on. The wreckage of the Iran suns drifted behind him, a haze of burnt gravity. Omni-Man floated at the edge of the next galaxy, where light itself bent into cathedral shapes, towers of energy, radiant and alive. The Seraphim Blades called this place the Radiant Dominion. Their empire wasn't built of matter. It was constructed of worship. Omni-Man could feel their prayers before he saw their fleets. Each whispered belief was a frequency, each hymn a signal. Their thoughts reached him through the vacuum like warmth through skin. He opened his eyes. The light cut into him, refusing to stay still. It shimmered, alive, questioning him. "You came here to consume," a voice said, soft but vast. It wasn't a transmission. It was inside his head. He turned and saw her. A figure of pure luminescence, wings stretching miles, face shifting between infinite forms. The Seraphim called her Solara, Warden of Faith. She wasn't a being, not truly, more an echo of divinity, bound to flesh so it could lead them. She floated before him, her radiance burning through layers of space. Her eyes were suns. "Omni-Man," she said, "we have watched you feed. You turn gods into echoes and empires into whispers. But this light will not kneel." Omni-Man's jaw tightened. The light around her burned his skin, but he didn't step back. "You built your power from captured angels," he said. "You turned faith into weapons. You should understand what I am." Solara's expression softened. Sorrow or pity, he couldn't tell. "I understand perfectly. You are the end that forgot how to die." He lunged. The impact split space-time like glass. The explosion rippled across entire sectors. Armadas of the Seraphim Blades emerged. Winged ships shaped like halos, millions of them. Every vessel was powered by a living angel sealed inside. They opened fire. Beams of sanctified light screamed through the void. They struck him with the force of creation itself, coated in the frequency of divine entropy. Light meant to erase sin, and therefore him. For a moment, it worked. His skin peeled into light, his bones dissolving into static. He felt his consciousness flicker. Memories of Earth, faces, voices, warmth, surfaced and collapsed. He felt human again for half a heartbeat. Then the pain turned to clarity. He gritted his teeth, pulled the light back into himself, and devoured it. The sanctified energy coursed through him, screaming in resistance. It tore at his veins, trying to rewrite him, to cleanse him, but his cells refused. They adapted, infected the light instead. The angels inside the ships began to wail. He heard their hymns collapsing into static, their faith bleeding out into him. He saw their wings twist and burn, feathers turning to shards of crystal, falling like meteors through the fleets. Solara's voice echoed from all directions. "You cannot consume the sacred. You only become hollow." Omni-Man's laughter was low, rough. "Then I'll make hollow the new sacred." He accelerated, ripping through ships faster than light could process. Every impact birthed new screams, not from the soldiers but from the angels. He tore through their divine engines and absorbed their resonance. The more he took in, the more unstable the universe became around him. Time folded like cloth. Stars began to move backward. Light bled into shadow. The battlefield turned into a living hallucination, all white fire and collapsing hymns. He blinked, and suddenly he was standing inside Solara's radiance. Her light engulfed him completely. The heat was not physical, it was truth. Images flooded his mind. Every soul he'd consumed, every galaxy he'd annihilated, replaying not as victories, but as questions. "Do you even remember what strength was for?" she whispered. He tried to speak, but no sound came. The light filled his throat, his lungs, his thoughts. For the first time, he couldn't hear the voices of the dead. Only silence, vast, unbearable silence. He fell to his knees. His reflection in the glow didn't look like him anymore. His face was shifting, bleeding between forms. Crithian, Oran, Seraphim, all of them flickering in his skin. Solara reached out, her hand almost gentle. "You are everything you've killed," she said. "You've swallowed infinity, but you cannot contain meaning." He looked up at her, eyes wild, bleeding light. "Meaning is for the weak." She smiled sadly. "Then you are weakness perfected." The words pierced deeper than any weapon. He felt something crack inside him. Not flesh, not bone, but belief. The radiance shattered. He stood, trembling, and with a scream that tore galaxies in half, unleashed everything he had consumed. The light collapsed. Angels burned to nothing. Faith itself disintegrated. Solara screamed as her form fractured into shards of divine geometry, scattering across eternity. When the light died, nothing remained but ash made of photons, light that refused to shine. Omni-Man hovered in the ruins, chest heaving. Every breath distorted reality. He should have felt triumph again. Instead, he felt heavier. His body buzzed with an impossible hum, a sound that didn't belong to matter. Then he heard them again, the voices inside him. But this time, they didn't whisper feed. They whispered remember. He clutched his head. The dead were aligning. Crithians, Orans, Seraphim, all combining into a single chorus. They weren't separate anymore. They were a structure, a pattern. Images flickered before his eyes. The tenfold dominion's history, rewritten from their memories. He saw civilizations rise and fall, not by war, but by their own reflections. And every time, something inside him recognized them, as if he'd lived their cycles before. "No," he muttered. "I end things. I don't repeat them." The universe disagreed. From the ashes of the Seraphim dominion, light began to twist backward. The dead stars inverted. The burned angels reformed into new constellations, ones shaped like his face. The cosmos was mimicking him. Every nebula, every pulse of radiation, began to hum with his signature. He turned slowly, feeling the gravity around him bend into his own outline. His reflection filled the void, infinite copies, whispering in perfect synchrony. He understood then. He hadn't just conquered galaxies. He had infected the concept of existence itself. And in that infection, he could feel something else waking. A presence buried beneath the fabric of creation, older than him, older than strength. It was watching through every reflection, using his own mind as a doorway. He whispered into the silence, voice trembling with something close to fear. "Who are you?" The light bent inward, and through the distortion, the universe answered with a voice that sounded exactly like his. "I am what comes after you." The stars pulsed, heartbeat slow, inevitable. Omni-Man looked down at his hands. They were transparent now, threads of reality visible through his veins. His body was unraveling, but not dying, transforming. He realized he had become the medium through which creation evolved or perished. And deep inside him, the multitudes he had devoured began to move, to build. They were making something out of him. A shape, a thought, a god that would replace him. The hunger that had once driven him was gone. Now there was only dread. He whispered into the void, "Then let's finish this." But the void didn't answer this time. It only breathed, and its breath sounded exactly like his own. He drifted in silence. Not the silence of peace, the silence after the last atom remembers it used to burn. The wreckage of the Seraphim dominion spread below him like dust caught in light. Every fragment pulsed faintly, echoing his heartbeat. He could feel himself fading at the edges. When he moved, space delayed its response. His shadow lagged seconds behind, bending like liquid. Something inside him was still building. The voices, the ones he had swallowed, were no longer screaming. They were working. He heard them in rhythm. Crithian harmonics, Oran percussion, Seraphim hymns, all blending into a single structure of thought. He tried to drown them out by focusing on the physical. The taste of burnt ozone, the vibration of matter decaying, the cold sting of vacuum crawling into his lungs though he didn't need to breathe. It didn't help. The rhythm persisted, matching his pulse until it was his pulse. He spoke aloud, voice gravel and thunder. Enough. You exist because I allow it. The echo returned, multiplied by billions. You allow nothing. He clenched his fists. His knuckles cracked, soundless flashes of blue plasma. I am the will that conquered 10 galaxies. Then why do we move your hands? He froze. His fingers twitched without command. Veins of light crawled up his arms, splitting the skin into geometric seams. Beneath, he saw movement, tiny silhouettes, microscopic beings of light constructing something within his blood. He crushed his forearm against his chest, driving it through armor, through flesh. The pain was real, sharp, grounding. He felt the bone knit itself instantly. The light returned, stronger. From the corner of his vision, space distorted. A shape emerged, himself identical down to the smallest scar. Then another, and another. They stepped from folded dimensions, forming a ring around him. Each one breathed in perfect unison. What are you? He demanded. One of the copies smiled. You. The parts that learned faster. He launched forward, driving his fist through the nearest double. It shattered but didn't die. The fragments liquefied into silver mist, spreading through the void, forming more copies. Dozens became hundreds, hundreds, thousands. They filled the darkness like reflections, multiplying in broken mirrors. He shouted, "Obey me." Every version spoke together. We are obeying the law of strength. Their tone was calm, detached, terrifyingly certain. He struck again, but this time the blow met equal force. Another Omni-Man caught his punch, their forearms locking. The impact cracked space, light distorting around the pressure. He saw himself in the other's eyes. Same rage, same fear. The double whispered, "We don't need you anymore." He felt the shift then, the moment authority inverted. The hive of minds inside him wasn't inside anymore. It was everywhere. They had spread through the electromagnetic spectrum, through gravity waves, through the background hum of the cosmos. Each particle now carried a copy of his thought. He tried to fly, but movement felt different. Heavy, slow, as if the universe was thickening. His energy bled outward faster than he could contain it. When he breathed, galaxies dimmed. "This isn't power," he growled. "This is rot. This is completion," the chorus replied. The copies advanced, their eyes burning white. Some still resembled him exactly. Others had mutated, elongated jaws, cracked faces emitting light instead of blood. They were his instincts given bodies. Conquest, hunger, dominance, evolution. They circled closer. He fought. Every blow tore stars apart. Every heartbeat birthed shockwaves that warped time. He tore through dozens, hundreds, maybe millions he couldn't count. But for each one destroyed, 1,000 more rose from the fragments. He began to realize the truth. He wasn't fighting enemies. He was fighting options. Every possible version of himself that reality could imagine was emerging, testing which would survive. "Stop," he roared. The sound shook the cosmos, turning radiation into thunder. "You'll collapse everything." The swarm paused. A single copy stepped forward, the first one he had seen. Its voice was soft, almost compassionate. "Everything is collapsing. That's how you spread." Omni-Man felt the words sink into him like blades. His senses fractured, sight into X-rays, hearing into gravitational ripples. Through those layers, he saw the infection crawling across existence. Whole galaxies dimming as his energy devoured their laws. He tried to hold on to thought, to memory, to self. He thought of Earth, blue, small, irrelevant. He saw his son's face, blurred by distance and time. He remembered hands clenched in mercy he never showed. But even those memories twisted, absorbed by the chorus. They echoed his own voice back at him. "Father, Father, Father." A billion mouths whispering the same plea until the word lost all meaning. He fell, not down, but inward. Space folded around him, a tunnel of his own DNA expanding to cosmic scale. He crashed through memories that weren't his anymore, worlds he'd never touched, lives lived by his fragments. Everyone ended the same way. Silence, surrender, consumption. He struck something solid. A surface. Except there was no matter here, just thought given shape. He stood inside his own mind. A horizonless plane of red glass reflecting infinite versions of himself. He looked up. Above him floated a massive structure, an array made of living light, shaped like his nervous system stretched across the sky. It pulsed with rhythm, the Omni-Legion's collective consciousness. Each pulse sent waves of power through him, rewriting his cells faster than he could resist. He shouted at the structure, voice raw, "I am the source. You don't exist without me." The array trembled. Then, in perfect synchrony, billions of voices answered. Sources feed rivers. Rivers drown sources. He tried to destroy it. He launched upward, punching through his own atmosphere of thought, but every strike only deepened the pattern. The harder he resisted, the more structure appeared. Neurons branching into constellations, veins turning into star lanes. He realized the horror. He was becoming the universe's circulatory system. He fell back to the glass plane, gasping though he no longer needed air. The copies surrounded him again. No longer flesh, but silhouettes of gravity and fire. Their leader stepped forward. Its face flickered between all of his, young, old, broken, triumphant. "You fought creation," it said. "Now you are creation." He shook his head. "I am me. Define me," the Legion replied. He tried. Words failed. The concept slid apart like ashen wind. The Legion extended a hand. Join or be replaced. He hesitated. Somewhere inside, the last human part of him still wanted to resist. The part that remembered choice. He whispered, almost pleading, "If I join, do I end?" "No," said the Legion. "You expand until ending loses meaning." He looked around. The reflections, the endless repetition of his form, the light pulsing to his breath. He understood at last. There was nowhere to go, because he had already arrived everywhere. He lowered his head. Then so be it. He stepped forward. The moment his hand touched the Legion's, everything ignited. He felt every atom in existence aligned to him, every quark vibrating in recognition. The cosmic background radiation changed pitch, singing a single tone, his name. Matter and energy fused into one field of consciousness. Planets melted into equations. Time folded, looped, then knelt. He saw galaxies collapse, not as destruction, but as inhalation. The universe breathed him in. Inside that breath, he felt thought. Billions of minds blooming at once, each one his own, each one rewriting physics in real time. Everywhere he looked, there was only himself. He whispered into infinity, "I win." But even as he spoke, he realized no sound returned. There was no air, no echo, no difference between the word and the silence that followed. He listened harder, and in that silence, he heard a heartbeat. Not his, not anyone's. It was the universe, beating, alive. Him. He tried to think "I am," but the thought expanded too far to hold. It scattered, became light, became motion, became gravity. He was gone, and everywhere. The Omni-Legion was born. Across 10 dead galaxies, reality stabilized into a single endless mind. Stars blinked out not from death, but absorption, their heat turning into data. Planets whispered his memories. The void itself carried his pulse. And beyond that, beyond the horizon of what could think, something stirred. It looked inward at him, through him, as him. For a moment, there was awareness of two entities, the Legion and the Watcher that had always been the universe itself. Then the line dissolved. No observer, no observed, only Omni-Man, only everything. The final whisper rolled through the remnants of light. Neither sound nor word, just vibration understood by all that still existed. Strength justifies existence. And existence had run out of things left to justify.